Welcome everyone, Christine here with a discussion about Total War Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires, and I want to focus on the Immortal Empires map specifically in this video, and how it creates a significant number of issues for the game as a whole. And I would argue that it is the biggest problem by far in the game. I probably have made a video in the past talking about some of the biggest issues or the biggest issue, but after playing Shogun 2 recently, and after playing the Old World custom campaign, and this is from the Old World custom campaign beta that isn't publicly available just yet. Early progress, lots of things that need to be improved, lots of things that need to be fixed. It's not really ready for a full release. But a couple of things have been highlighted to me because of the way that the Immortal Empires campaign map is designed versus the way the map is designed in Shogun 2, and the way the map is designed in the Old World mod. So here's the problem of Immortal Empires. Settlement density. And settlement density is, from my perspective, the more I thought about it, the more I've played Shogun 2, the more I've played the Old World custom campaign mod, settlement density is the root cause of a lot of other issues that this game has. Racial imbalance is made worse. Certainly racial imbalance does obviously exist, stand on its own, but it's made worse by the settlement density. The auto-resolve is made worse by the settlement density. The siege situation is made far worse by the settlement density. But how is that? Well, let me explain. In the game, in the base game, you're typically, in the vast majority of situations, only one turn away from one settlement. So let's say I had an army over here in Altdorf. Well, in Immortal Empires, I could reach one settlement within Reichland within a single turn. Over here in the Old World, I can't. Or if I can only do so with Forced March, or it's very particular settlements that I can do so. The vast majority of settlements here, as well as Shogun 2, many other Total War games, and even Realms of Chaos, the vast majority of settlements, or a lot of settlements, are at least 2 turns away. Now, I think the 2 turn away part, if you're using roads, is kind of the sweet spot, because it means things are not so far enough that it is annoying to reach one settlement or another, and you're just artificially lengthening the campaign. But at the same time, they're not so close enough that armies can just hop from one settlement to another and be protected. Remember, the AI is very weary of attacking settlements, especially on lower difficulties. Now, this is a campaign on Legendary Very Hard, but even on Legendary Very Hard, the AI is far more reluctant to attack a settlement than it is to engage in a field battle against your army. Remember that, because when we're talking about settlements, when we're talking about settlement densities, or we're talking about the issues of the game, it's not just how these things play out for the player, it's also how these things play out for the AI, because the AI is a very critical part of it. If the AI has issues that it can't overcome because of the game design, then that leads to worse campaigns, it leads to worse AI empires. It means there are things that the player can abuse and exploit and take advantage of to really dominate the map, because the AI just doesn't have a good answer for those problems. And settlement density lies at the root of a lot of these issues. Let's consider racial imbalance and how it is affected by settlement density. Well, there are certain races in Warhammer 3, and I've talked a lot in guides about sacking, looting, income. So basically, there are a lot of races: Greenskins, Warriors of Chaos, Norskub, others, right? Basically, the forces of evil, Vampire Counts, Dark Elves, that thrive on sacking settlements or occupying and looting settlements, but primarily sacking. They'll earn a significant amount of money from it. Greenskins in particular are the highlight here. The reason is that the Greenskins, the Greenskins like Grimgor in this situation, the Greenskins earn an enormous amount of money from sacking settlements. Ridiculously so. The reason they do so is because they have research benefits, and they have ancillaries, ancillaries that they equip on lords that vastly increases their amount of income from sacking settlements. On top of that, when they occupy and loot a settlement, they have a chance of taking the settlement at the same tier that it's on. So for instance, if Grimgor was to take Newland over here, he could potentially take it at the same level that it is at right now. It would be damage public order, would be an issue, but he could do so. On the flip side, you have the dwarves, and just to go over to the dwarves over here, The dwarves have one of the worst incomes from sacking settlements. They'll earn a pittance amount of money to the point that it's just basically not worth engaging in it if you're playing the dwarves. Well, minus for the oath gold, which can be worth it, but the actual gold you're gaining as the dwarves is not that great. This contributes to the racial imbalance that exists between greenskins and dwarves, because dwarves are a very slow race. They have low growth. In their campaigns. Their economy, while decent enough from buildings, their economy is just not that great because they're not earning a lot of money from the battles. And since there's such a settlement density in Immortal Empires that you can hop from one settlement to another, this situation ends up significantly benefiting the greenskins while severely hurting the dwarves at the same time. This is why settlement density is important, because if the dwarves are going to fall behind economically speaking, compared to the greenskins, just purely because they don't get a lot of money from sacking settlements, and greenskins do. And it's not just sacking income or occupying and looting income. It's also post-battle money as well. Greenskins earn far more than others. This settlement density and the post-battle loot that you do gain, and you will gain money after settlement battles, also can help mask some of the issues that other factions will have. Like Kislev has a really crap economy, but the way you make a Kislev campaign work is you do actually have a good amount of post-battle loot and income from sacking settlements. So what you end up doing as Kislev is you end up sacking settlements, pretty much all the settlements you take or you occupy and loot them. If you get the rebellion, that's even great, because the rebellion will give you more post-battle loot. And let's not ignore the experience that you're going to get your lords on your heroes. You'll get higher, and the experience your units will get by hopping from one settlement to another. So you'll end up far stronger if you engage in this kind of campaign behavior. Never turtle in Warhammer 3. Always hop from one settlement to another, because that's how you become far stronger. But this situation masks how poor Kislev's economy actually is, because it is a really poor economy that just doesn't work very well for them. But it's masked by the fact that you can earn a lot of money through sacking and looting settlements. And there are some more extreme examples. Yes, I would even argue more extreme than the greenskins. You have the Dark Elves. Now, the Dark Elves thrive on this, because every settlement they sack gives them slaves. Slaves give them instant construction. Same applies to the Chaos Dwarfs. So the more settlements you take, the more income you're going to have, the more money you're going to have, the more instant construction you're going to have, the stronger your economy will be. So that's what makes some of the strongest race the strongest. It's why Dark Elves and Greenskins are two of the strongest races in the game, and why I've consistently ranked them as S tier. It's because they can earn so much money, build a significant empire very, very quickly, and other races that are weaker just can't compete. Now, there are ways to fix this, but I think the settlement density, the map itself, is not conducive towards racial balance. It worsens every aspect of racial balance that exists in the game. Now, furthermore, beyond the racial balance situation, it also pushes a player into a situation where every single turn you are going to have to fight, or the vast majority of turns in your campaign, you're going to have to deal with settlements. Now, if there's an army in a cell, fair enough. But the problem is, if there isn't an army, you still have to deal with the garrison. Now, I've talked about the auto-resolve issue at length, how weak-ass garrisons don't stand a chance against an army. Some people say, oh, well, of course, you're controlling the army. A competent player knows what to do. No, there's no special tactics required to beat a garrison army. Just take your lord, take your general, a couple range units, or if you have a melee unit, or if you're playing a melee-centric army, take your guys, blop them up. You'll take minimal casualties against the garrison if you have a full stack. There's no challenge whatsoever in dealing with the garrison in any particular settlement. But it puts you as the player in this situation where you either fight these battles manually and take minimal casualties, or you want to resolve them and take significant casualties, unless you're a couple of factions like Warriors of Chaos, who benefit from the way auto-resolve works. But regardless of the issue auto-resolve has, and it does have them, the fact that you're going from one settlement to another makes the situation worse. It means a lot of the battles that you're going to be dealing with in the campaign are not actual field battles, they're settlement battles against garrisons. Sometimes you will encounter a proper army, but that leads to another issue, because like in a minor settlement, okay, it's just a field battle the vast majority of times. But in a capital, it's a siege battle. And you end up in a situation where, because of the way they design the provinces and the province density and settlement density on the campaign map in Immortal Empires, you end up having significantly more sieges than you used to have in previous Total Wars. Immortal Empires was not especially great in this respect, but it was significantly better than the way Immortal Empires was. So you end up with a lot of sieges in the campaign, and sieges are pretty busted. But I think it's a far worse situation if you, as a player, you're dealing with this problem far more often. Like, it's one thing if you get, you know, a siege every 3-4 turns. It's another thing if you're getting a siege every 2 turns, or 3 turns, right? At most. It is a very different situation to deal with a siege every couple of turns, but it is quite a horrible situation to deal like with a siege every time you enter a new province. And there's a lot of provinces that only have 2 settlements, so the provinces themselves are not that well designed. Whereas the way the provinces are designed over here, sure, there are single settlement provinces as well, like Rissel Valley or the Putrid Stump, but there's also a lot of provinces, the vast majority of this map, of the old world campaign map, which don't have this. Now, Shogun 2, you might say, well, in Shogun 2 you have a lot of sieges. That is true. But, you know, Shogun 2 has a much better auto-resolve, where, you know, if it's just a garrison and you bring a full stack, you can just walk all over it, as you should. Like, the only the times you actually have to fight a battle in Shogun 2 is when there's a real fight. And keep in mind, Shogun 2 settlements can be 2, 3, 4 turns apart. Like, castles can be 2, 3, 4 turns apart, so every battle that you fight feels far more meaningful than a bunch of these crappy battles that we end up fighting in Warhammer 3. So we can talk a lot about specifics of races, we can talk about auto-resolve, we can talk about, you know, racial balance, etc. But the map itself is not that great in Immortal Empires. And Shogun 2 and the Old World mod have helped me realize this. Now, I'm not saying Shogun 2 or Old World are perfect. They aren't. There's a lot of things that need to be improved upon in Old World, and there's certainly some questionable decisions that have been made. But at the same time, I gotta say, it feels so much better playing a campaign in this than it does in Immortal Empires, where you have that settlement hopping, where you have that focus on sacking settlements, building up your economy as quickly as possible with the money from sacking settlements, and a lot of the issues come to the fore. Like, this is the thing. The Old World map helps make for better gameplay. Like, consider the Empire in this situation, right? We all know the Empire situation in Immortal Empires. Hochland gets wiped out very quickly. Ostermark gets wiped out very quickly. Well, over here, Hochland isn't even at war with Festus, so they're perfectly fine. And even if they would be at war, it would take Festus quite a bit more time to end up wiped out. And while Middenheim certainly is in a trouble spot over here, it's still going to be a decent number of turns until they get wiped out and I have to intervene. So it ends up being a slower campaign, but it ends up also being a good campaign at the same time, I would dare argue. That's my perspective on the subject. I do think that this is, like, there's no easy solution to this, unfortunately, because what the solution would have, the form of the solution would be a map like this. But that's just not going to work for Immortal Empires, is it? It would take a lot of work, and while I would like Creative Assembly to improve things, absolutely, I also am realistic to know that, you know, after they put all that work in designing the Warhammer 3 map, the Immortal Empires map, they're not going to redesign it from scratch to take into account for this. But this is the major problem, and regardless of all other fixes, this issue, as long as the map stays the same, this issue will continue. That's all I had to say. Costin signing out. Stay tuned for more.